Thank you, Mr. President. On Sunday, January 19th of this year, as I'm sure that you're all aware, Twin Parks Northwest, a building just a couple of blocks from my district office in the Bronx, had a terrible fire which was worse than one that we've seen in years, certainly in the Bronx. As has been referenced by some of my colleagues, 17 people lost their lives, including 8 children. And the fact is that what caused it, as has also been pointed out by some of my colleagues, the fire in this building, and not only that, but in buildings in other parts of our city, has been at many times negligence and things that could have been fixed. In the case of Twin Parks Northwest, it was a series of space heaters in a building, in an apartment, that actually caused a fire. And in turn, once the fire started, self-closing doors that were non-operational were left open, therefore spreading the fire to other parts of the building, trapping so many folks in upper buildings, because this only happened on the 2nd floor of this multi-story building. So there's a series of bills that we're passing today, and the one that we're passing that is my bill, Mr. President, in particular relates to increasing fines for building and fire code violations. We know that in many instances, and we talk about it constantly, there's certain folks that consider fines, if they're not large enough, they consider it part of doing business. And we want to make sure that we change that as it relates to this. In this case, these penalties and fines were established 30 years ago, Mr. President, and we believe that we need to raise them to make sure that it can serve as a deterrence. It is not the only thing that we are doing, Mr. President. There's a couple of other bills, including one by my colleague Cordell Clear, who also had a tragic fire in her district, coming up a little bit later, which deals specifically with space heaters. But in this case, I rise to certainly support this piece of legislation, asking my colleagues to do the same. And certainly, Mr. President, while we certainly can't get the lives back that we lost that day, we can do things legislatively to try to force those folks who are, as my colleague Senator Jackson said, sometimes not being responsible with their property and not doing what they should to maintain these property, that sometimes lead to deaths. We can make it sure that at the very least it costs them, and that we can potentially change the way that they act so that we can save lives in the future. I'll vote in the affirmative. Thank you, Mr. President.